Howdy, folks. I'm 9 splendid swans swiftly swimming strategically southward.
I'm Amber.
And here are more southward swimmings for us to strategically do. I don't know. Doesn't really work. Alright, folks, and our first letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Freaking Out Over My Husband's Thoughtful Gift? Yesterday was my birthday. My husband was getting on my case lately about buying too many peppermint mocha lattes from Starbucks. For 2 days before my birthday, he is hyping up the gift that he will give me the first thing in the morning. So he surprised me with a homemade peppermint mocha latte that he made. The twist is that he made it with essential oils that some random lady at a health food store assured him is okay. I have a panic attack after he tells me that he fed me essential oils. I felt enraged and I hated it when I looked on the essential oil bottle and it clearly states that it's for use in a humidifier. He didn't even read the bottle before deciding to try to make this sweet gesture with it. I've never been interested in essential oils, so he has no reason to think that I would want to ingest this. He says that he isn't the jerk because how could he know that the shopkeeper would lie? Am I the jerk for blowing up and telling him that I am disappointed? Alright, folks, what do you think?
Not the jerk. If you're not familiar with the product, you should read the label. But I'm also wondering if he actually specifically asked the clerk for, food grade essential oils, or if he just was like, hey, do you have any peppermint essential oil?
Yeah, I mean, there are certainly food grade oils. I think there's food grade peppermint oil that you can use, and I think there are some differences between what you would want to put in your food and what you would want to put into a humidifier quality-wise, right? So they're not necessarily expecting you to ingest a non-food grade essential oil, so there's not the guarantee of safety there, right? There's not a food safety standard. And that's one of the big things is this might be contaminated one way or another that could impact someone's health. And I think that with something like peppermint oil, I did look this up, it seems like it's relatively okay as long as it's only very small amounts. But if you drink large quantities of essential oils, peppermint essential oil, then you can actually really do some harm to yourself. So
Yeah, and even in small quantities, it can cause gastrointestinal discomfort and whatnot. So, still not pleasant, but not necessarily going to kill you.
yeah.
But I can understand why Opie would be so upset finding out that her husband had made her this thing and hadn't even bothered to check and see if it was safe for food.
Yeah. I guess my big thing is, it seems like he did this because he was trying to save money. He's upset at OP for going out and buying peppermint mochas.
Mm-hmm.
And, if there's a budget reason for him to be wanting to do this, then they should sit down and talk about the budget, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I certainly understand him thinking that this was going to be a nice gesture to some degree, but it more or less sounds like he's like, I'll fix her wagon. We'll go ahead and buy the essential oil, and then she'll never have a reason to go out and buy a drink from Starbucks again, or something like that.
Well, and if he only was going to make it for her this one time, then, also the cost ratio, it's more expensive to buy all the ingredients for one latte, because there's all the leftovers, than to just buy her a peppermint latte from Starbucks.
Well, I think the idea here is that he bought more of the ingredients so that he could make them for her more often or tell her how to make them.
Yeah, I don't think he was planning on making her more. In the comments, it sounds like he almost never makes food and he does a really terrible job of it, so that's part of why she was worried to begin with.
Yeah. Well, let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And excellent practice says, not the jerk. Your husband is not a smart man. Did it at least taste decent? I imagine that it would be rather difficult to use essential oils as a coffee flavoring. And OP replies, Starbucks was way better. And ordinary process says, not the jerk, because it was a crummy gift. But if it was just peppermint essential oil, then it is safe to ingest and he didn't poison you. And OP replies, my stomach pain and diarrhea begs to differ. Peppermint oil is a very legitimate ingredient that you can use in cooking, but it needs to be food grade oil.
Well, isn't it usually the peppermint liqueur that people use?
It generally is the peppermint liqueur, but you can buy peppermint oil as well. PM me your cat video says, if this were true, you would have mentioned it in the post. And OP replies, it's the feeding me non-food items that upset me. Poison control said I'll be fine. And Disaster Regular 5566 says, Could he not have looked up a recipe and gone to the supermarket? I mean, it would have been a garbage gift anyways, basically trying to take away something that she enjoys as a gift. But he couldn't even be bothered to follow a recipe and use food grade ingredients. And now he can't even apologize for it. Not the jerk, but he is. And OP replies, I'm at a loss because he's still super defensive about making a mistake and trying to blame the person at the store. And apparently we have the husband. And OP's husband says, hello Reddit, I am the husband here to offer some additional insight to the situation. First thing, you are all calling me cheap for this gift. This was one of several gifts. I purchased her the beetle that she desired in larval state, as well as the appropriate hardwood dirt to raise it in, as well as the terrarium required. I also found her a lovely knife to help with her collage making. While I did think that this was a good way to save money for us, which is important because we are saving to buy a house, that was not my primary reason for wanting to make her this drink. She is agoraphobic and does not like leaving the house if she doesn't have to. So I thought that getting her all the ingredients in bulk to make this drink whenever she wanted to would have been lovely for her. I found this recipe to the drink. As you can see, it lists peppermint extract as a way to provide the peppermint flavor. I went to 4 different stores trying to find that exact thing, but was unable to locate it at grocery stores. I went to Healthy Planet, a Canadian chain of health food stores, because I know that they had a plethora of spices and things like that. I spoke to a worker there, telling them of my intention to make this drink, and they directed me to an area where there was a butter extract, a vanilla extract, etc. And they had a peppermint extract, but they were out of stock. The lady told me not to worry because she actually used essential oils instead of extract in order to not contaminate her cookies with propylene glycol and alcohol. If you look up what's in peppermint extract, it's just those two and peppermint oil. So here I find the peppermint oil in its pure state. I understood that it would be far more concentrated than the extract, so I only used 1 drop. Probably less than 0.5 milliliters of peppermint essential oil. She assured me that it was safe, and some Google searching also assured me that in small doses it would be fine. The recipe called for a full tablespoon of peppermint extract, and so knowing what I had was pure oil, I only used 1 drop in 500 milliliters of mocha coffee. I could never have imagined that this would make her sick. The last thing I want to do was harm my wife. I love her more than anything. All I was trying to do was deliver her a coffee which she loves in the comfort of our home, so she wouldn't have to go to the store to buy it every time, so we could save money for buying a house together. I recognize that I should have done more research, but I just couldn't imagine that kindly woman in the Health Planet store would suggest something potentially lethal in making a coffee for my wife. I only wanted to make her happy. Also, I would like to state that even if 1 drop of this essential oil is safe, I have found online an FDA-approved food-safe peppermint extract that I will use in the future. I am not sticking to my guns on this purchase. I am happy to use the right thing for the safest and most enjoyable result. And OP replies, yes, this is my husband. Alright, what do you think? Does this change your opinion on things at all?
I'm very confused now. OP's response is just like, yes, this is my husband. They're 2 very different pictures of the situation now. I don't know what to think anymore.
Well, I mean, it sounds like there was like some kind of fight between them at home at this point in time, right? Where he found out about this and he went on here in order to go ahead and see about defending himself, right? Certainly nice of him to want to help his wife so that she doesn't have to go out and buy, this mocha.
Yeah, and also it's not necessarily helpful to agoraphobia to try and give everyone their comforts at home, because the agoraphobia, I deal with agoraphobia, and the key thing is you want to break that habit. You want to be able to get out of the house and go places. So if it's one of the few things that actually motivates her to leave the house, that's a good thing in my opinion. Like, I understand the desire to make people comfortable, but the problem with some anxiety disorders is you have to make yourself uncomfortable to make progress.
Yeah. I can understand where he's coming from here. If like everything here that is written is true, then certainly it seems like he had a good intention. And this does seem like it may have just been an honest mistake as opposed to like a willfully ignorant type of thing where, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just buy the first thing I find, right?
Yeah, although I'm surprised that out of 4 grocery stores, not a single one carried peppermint oil or
Well,
extract.
I guess because it's right close to Christmas
I mean,
time,
I
and
guess that's
probably
true.
everyone has bought out all the peppermint oil because they're
Yeah,
making their peppermint cookies and stuff like that.
that's fair.
So I guess probably this was more or less bad timing on his part.
Mm-hmm.
Order it in the future if you're gonna do something like that.
Yeah, because there are a bunch of comments that we didn't get to on here where she basically painted him as a very like negligent person. Like he almost never cooks, and when he does, I'm basically terrified of his cooking.
Yeah.
Which I mean, if you have a lot of anxiety, like that can be like you can be afraid of things for really no real reason. There was also she talked about how he fed his sister the same drink and like
And I don't want on says, not the jerk, this is not a thoughtful gift. And OP replies, right, he keeps saying that he was trying to be thoughtful, but he didn't put any thought or research into it. So we're getting two very different stories here, right? He claims that he's done a lot of research, and she's claiming that this was not thought out at all.
mm-hmm,
Seems like they're at a not a good place and need to learn how to communicate better.
mm-hmm.
And Cryon78 says, no jerks here. Though your husband sounds a bit dumb, he meant well. And Opie replies, I think he may need to be evaluated and something is going on. He used to be really smart and considerate many years ago. So, I don't know. Like you were saying, Amber, this seems like very different from the way he painted himself.
Right. And like I was expecting when we found his post for either OP to be like, no, that's not my husband. This is just someone making things up, or to like refute some of what he was saying. But
Yeah.
when she didn't, it really gives me pause.
Yeah, it's strange because her comments here are very much like, "Oh, he's not a good person,"
Mm-hmm.
right? But then suddenly she didn't refute anything that he had to say and wasn't like, "No, I don't feel like blah 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 blah," right? Maybe she was just trying to keep the peace after he found out about the
Mm-hmm.
post, right? And Matsy138 says, "Not the jerk for wanting a non-food item in your food." Info, before you knew about the essential oil, was it actually good? Like, you'd want him to make it for you again with the food safe version. Because if not, I would say the whole thing is terrible and not focus on the essential oil part. Otherwise, he'll probably be making more. And OP replies, no, it wasn't good, and he doesn't put any effort into it when he does cook, which is rarely. So I was scared to eat it to begin with. I didn't want to hurt his feelings, so I drank a third of it.
I mean, that's not a good situation.
No, I think that this really shows that there's some other deeper problem in their relationship and that there needs to be like some deeper conversations, maybe marriage counseling.
Yeah, because like if Brian makes me something and I don't like it, like I mean, I'm never scared to eat your cooking. Like I will tell you if I feel like, oh, this ingredient's too close to its expiration date for my comfort.
Yeah.
And like if I don't like it, I feel comfortable like letting you know, oh yeah, this isn't my jam, and I don't like force myself to like eat it. You shouldn't feel forced to like consume things that are
Yeah.
your partner makes.
Yeah. So I do think that there's some levels of not good stuff going on here,
Mm-hmm.
certainly. I don't know what to really make of this. It just seems very messy. Her
Mm-hmm.
original post paints it as very kind of clear.
It was very clear and one-sided, and now it's like unreliable narrator. Like how much is actually him being an inconsiderate spouse? Because he could be. I mean, who wants to paint themselves as an inconsiderate spouse on the internet?
Yeah.
But how, and then how much of it is her anxiety exaggerating and amplifying her feelings and her perceived issues?
And our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for not changing my hair color for my fiance? I'm a 24-year-old female and my fiance, a 26-year-old male, have been engaged for 2 months and together for 7 years. We had a great relationship up until our engagement. Ever since the engagement, he has tried to push me to do things that I don't want. For example, I have jet black hair and I love it that way. My fiance has this thing for blonde and redheads. I never understood why, but he would tell me that redheads especially were really attractive to him. He never addressed such things to me prior to getting engaged, and now he wants me to either dye my hair ginger or bleach it blonde. We have had this conversation more than 7 times, and more than 7 times I have said no. My hair has never been colored or gone through any chemicals before, and I want to keep it that way. However, my fiance thinks that this is selfish for me not to consider his choice of interest, especially when he proposed to me to get married. So much so that he brought this up at a family dinner last night, and his family sided with him. And he called me a typical Asian, boring black haired. He's a white American. Yet I still chose not to dye it. Am I the jerk? Alright, folks, what do you think of this mess?
Not the jerk, and I think it's time to reevaluate your relationship, OP. Unfortunately, a lot of abusers will wait until they feel like they have you locked down to start showing their tendencies.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that this is just one of many issues that are going to, it's anything that displeases him is all of going to, a sudden going to be, why won't you do this for me? Why are you being so selfish and inconsiderate? There is nothing selfish or inconsiderate about wanting to not chemically treat or dye your hair.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's bringing his family into this and having them all gang up on you is showing you your future.
Yeah, well, I also want to point out this. He feels like he's doing her a favor by proposing and getting married, right?
Well, yeah, and he's using that as like leverage.
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind enough to offer to marry you, so you need to do things for me.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he's going to hold that over your head. And then if you marry him, he's going to be like, well, no one else would have picked you. Like, you're lucky I'm staying with you.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
should do this for me.
Yeah. So I think that OP should not be forced to change the color of their hair for getting married. If they wanted to, they could. If they wanted to wear a wig every once in a while, they could do something like that too. I'm not saying that they should be forced to do it, but I think that this is one of those situations where his demand is not a reasonable demand.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a reasonable thing to ask a partner. I mean, certainly you can float the idea, right? And be like, hey, would you like to change your hair color? I mean, it might look, red might look good on you or something like that, right? That's fine. If you know your partner is into changing their hair color and whatnot, that might be a reasonable ask. But when you know your partner is not interested in changing their hair at all, and you constantly nag them about changing their hair, then that goes from being like a reasonable request to something that's very, very unreasonable and coercive and manipulative.
Mm-hmm.
OP's partner, he doesn't get any presents.
Mm-hmm.
No presents for him. But maybe the lack of OP's presence in his life will make him realize to not be such a terrible person. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. Alright folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, and Amber, she has a joke.
Girl monster, there are only 4 things that keep you from being a good dancer. Boy monster, what are they?
4 left feet.
Girl monster, your feet.
Oh, I thought they were going to be like, you have 4 left feet.
It's the same idea.
Yeah, yeah. And I have Make a Mint. Speaking of mint. Alright, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Manic Monday. I hope your week is starting off fine. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance. And please, have it in the form of a haiku.
If a partner wants to wield control over you, it's not trivial.
I think that's a good haiku. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye!